Most people never think about an accident happening while on a ride because it is just the fun experience they daydream about. And no one prays to lose their loved ones to the cold hands of a wild roller coaster. But even though the legendary rides at Coney Island are not the tallest or the fastest in the world, they have a unique way of reminding riders of their mortality. Unlike Disneyland, where every inch of ground is strictly enforced, the Cyclone's wooden track shook often. The Wonder Wheel's creaks could be heard from the queue below, which caused deep worry to people around, caused a lot of injuries, and took 3 human lives, including 53-year-old Keith Shiraswa, whose death occurred on the Broad Cyclone ride, despite its claim of the most significant safety regulations in the outdoor amusement sector. But to maintain that perception in the public eye, New York City cruelly stated that he should have known the ride would kill him. But was this statement entirely true? Did Coney Island have a hand in his death? Could the death have been averted? What happened to the other 2 who died? This is the tragic tale of the lives lost in Coney Island, New York City. Coney Island was the largest U.S. amusement park in the 19th century. The Brooklyn beachfront, sideshows, and revolutionary thrill rides attracted tourists. This well-known ride is a wooden roller coaster located in Luna Park in Coney Island, Brooklyn, New York. It was made by Vernon Keenan and opened on June 26, 1927. The Cyclone can go as fast as 60 miles per hour, or 97 kilometers per hour, and its track is 2,640 feet long, or 800 meters. The ride's format was lively and unique. The Coney Island roller coaster used a third electric rail, like a subway vehicle, instead of gravity. Each train's conductors controlled car speed over inclines and curves. Park staff had to physically run the cars, therefore speed was unregulated. Numerous operators drove and rode vehicles at full speed on drops and abrupt bends. The seats didn't have headrests, and as fun as this ride sounds, it killed several people in horrible ways. On a gloomy day in May 1985, a 29-year-old man stood up, hit his head on a crossbeam, and died instantly on the spot. Although the reason why he stood up is not known to date, we don't know if it was out of excitement or if he wanted to impress the people around him. This case was dismissed as it was regarded as the 29-year-old man's fault. Another ghastly incident happened just 6 years after the first one, as it didn't just take the life of a tourist, but also the life of an employee. On August 23, 1988, a 26-year-old maintenance worker decided to enjoy his lunch break by riding on this infamous ride. He was the only passenger and was riding in the back seat. He appeared to be avoiding the safety bar. He stood up as the train descended the first hill, which was a grave mistake, and fell 30 feet, or 9.1 meters. He landed on a crossbeam of a lower section of track and died instantly. After the incident, the ride was shut down, but it was restored the next day after safety inspectors determined that it could now be used without risk. But the particular occurrence that really rattled New York City and took a lot of money away from Coney Island was the terrible death of Keith Shiraswa, and this time it was Coney Island's responsibility. On July 31, 2007, it was a bright new day. Birds flew happily in the sky while people hurriedly went about their business. 53-year-old Keith Shiraswa, a musician from Redwood City, was more excited on this special day as it marked the day he was born. He felt the thrill of happiness and decided with whom and how he would celebrate this special day when an idea came to his head. Why not visit the popular Coney Island Cyclone? He liked the idea so much and it excited him, so he told his girlfriend Linda Walker to celebrate his birthday by riding the Coney Island Cyclone with him. He arrived in New York City and Coney Island with his girlfriend and was convinced that this was the best way he could spend his birthday. He happily took the ride, but his girlfriend insisted on not riding with him but watching him ride instead. If only he knew that this 80-year-old rickety roller coaster was up to no good, he would not have boarded it, but people don't have the ability to see the future, so Shirasua eagerly climbed aboard. The ride began exactly as he had envisioned it going while his girlfriend Linda watched in amusement. Keith felt a rush of happy butterflies in his stomach, but it was cut short as his head snapped forward sharply during the ride's first 85-foot drop. This was a bad sign, and he knew he was in some real trouble, but the ride had already started and he needed to end it. However, he wasn't so sure anymore, as he couldn't feel his fingers anymore. and all he just wanted to do was complete the ride. The ride ended just as he had hoped, and he came out with a look of pain and discomfort while holding his neck. His girlfriend noticed the unusual look on her boyfriend's face, and out of deep concern, she asked what was wrong with him. Keith looked at her with a sad look, then opened up to her and said he had lost the feeling in his fingers. They were worried but didn't pay much attention to it, as they thought it was just the roller coaster effect and he would feel better the next day. If only they had known it was the beginning of doom for the couple, he would have sought immediate care at the nearest hospital. They finally got home, but Keith felt no better. Then suddenly he started losing sensation in his legs too, and the numbness began spreading throughout his body fast. He told his girlfriend, and she knew something was not right, so in fear, she urged a food stand worker to call 911, which he immediately did. EMTs rushed Shirasua to Coney Island Hospital, where doctors found he had fractured 3 vertebrae in his neck and would require emergency neurosurgery. His girlfriend wriggled in pain and worried, as she knew her boyfriend to always be in excellent health and didn't know the fate of her boyfriend. Shirasua underwent an operation to fuse the bones in his neck on August 2nd at SUNY Downstate Hospital. The musician, who was 53 years old, miraculously got better after surgery and even walked around several times, which made everyone around him happy. But sadly, he passed away from complications related to the operation 4 days later. The family wailed and was greatly disturbed. But while all this was happening, neither the police nor the city's building department was informed of the accident. The family lawyer contacted Cyclone's owners, and they immediately questioned whether the injury occurred on the ride. Before determining whether or not to sue, the family could only wait for the autopsy to find out the valid reason for his death, as they didn't have a lot of evidence to support it. "I just want people to know someone got wounded," lawyer Maseda said. The family of Keith later found out through the results that it was the Coney Island Cyclone's fault. It was discovered that he fatally broke his neck, so they blamed the city for not keeping the Coney Island coaster safe, and they proceeded to file a lawsuit. The musician's relatives insisted that the city failed to keep the 8-decade-old landmark safe. They further claimed in a federal court in Manhattan that the California man shattered his neck and broke many vertebrae when the historic wooden roller coaster went down the first steep hill on July 31st, 2007. New York City claimed that Keith Shiraswa should have known that the roller coaster was potentially lethal. They further claimed that any and all risks, hazards, defects, and dangers to the extent alleged are of an open, obvious, apparent, and inherent nature known and should have been known to Shiraswa. His loved ones attest that he was in good health up until the time of the mishap. Further investigations showed that Shirasua died because the ride's brakes were broken. The single lap bar used to restrain riders should have been upgraded. By not fixing, maintaining, improving, monitoring, operating, and controlling the property, the defendants were careless and contributed to Shirasua's death. The family won. Coney Island was sued, found guilty, and they reached a settlement of $250,000. In addition to Shirasua's death, the 81-year-old wooden roller coaster was responsible for the Luna Park incident, although the concerns of people still hold ground as they are worried that another accident would happen.